Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now, I was going to say star of this week's film, one of the stars certainly of this week's film, Casino Royale 2006, star of stage and screen, Mr. Joseph Millson. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, enjoying the frost has hit London now, so it's getting a
Yeah,
bit choppy
yeah,
here. So
yeah. I had to walk the dogs with gloves on this morning. Yeah.
yes, my greyhound is definitely not enjoying the weather.
No,
So
no.
no, but I know your time is short, so I think what we're going to do is dive right in to
Yes, go
Bond.
for it.
That's what we're doing.
Go for
60
it.
years of Bond this week. 60 years of
Yeah,
Bond. That's a lot.
amazing.
Um, Maybe before we got to the project itself for you, I mean, did you
Yeah.
have any previous connection to Bond? Did you watch it growing up?
I mean, I watched it growing up. I was a big fan. Whenever it was on in our house, things were stopped and we would watch it. Even if you turned on and it was 15 minutes in, it's one of those things that you just see through to the end in a house. And I think my era was probably Dalton, but
Mm.
my heart was Connery, and I enjoyed the Roger Moores. But I wasn't what you'd call a fan. Like I didn't have posters up on my wall or anything, but I loved them when I saw them. You know, yeah,
Yeah, it was just like appointment viewing in the UK,
yeah,
basically. It was on
exactly,
TV. You just
exactly.
stick it on. Spy Who Loved Me. Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Um, so then let's take us over to Casino Royale.
yeah,
Probably 2004, 2005.
yeah,
What happened? You end up being Carter in the film.
yeah,
Quite a famous scene in we've
yeah.
actually spoken to your co-star Sebastian Foucan a couple of
Oh
weeks ago,
yeah,
so he's
yeah.
great as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, how did you end up getting connected with the project?
Well, when you're a working actor in England, you do every now and then. I mean, this is a while ago, so I'm trying to remember, but my agent at the time was a lovely lady called Jan, and she phoned me ever so excited because I'd been in a play. Let me get this right. This sounds very grand. It doesn't happen often, but I was at the National Theatre doing an Ibsen with Damien Lewis and Leslie Manville, and I had a great part in it. Now, things were going very well, and she phoned like ridiculously excited, saying, the casting director and producer of the new, because there hadn't been a Bond film for how long before Casino Royale? A while, right?
It would be
It's
four
the
films
last,
by the time
wasn't
it
it?
landed.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, it'd been a while, and the rumors were massive. Nobody knew who the next Bond was going to be.
Mm.
She said they want you to go to Pinewood to do a little screen test, and she immediately was talking like it was to test to play Bond. And I went, "Yeah, it's not. It's not. I promise you." She went, "It might be. They're being very cloak and dagger. They won't send anything. You have to turn up and read the pages. You have to, you know." Anyway, long story short, I sort of was. I heard a rumor. I was added to a long list of like extra bodies in case they needed actors to screen test the Bond girls and to look like on paper so that it looked like they had a longer list of people who might play Bond, but it was total
Right.
nonsense. And then I did eventually, when I went in, I read this one little scene with about 2 lines, and they said, "We're really sorry that we have to audition you for such a tiny thing, blah, blah, blah." It's fine, it's fine. And then didn't hear anything for so long, 3 months, that I just presumed, well, that's obviously not happened. Basically, after about 3 weeks, we know it's a no as actors, basically.
Right.
So I started another job at the Royal Shakespeare Company, Job of Dreams, playing Benedict in Much Ado About Nothing opposite Tamsin Greig as Beatrice. And they suddenly called and said, "Oh yeah, so it's a yes, and we want you to go to the Bahamas in about 3 weeks." And I was busy. I was playing a lead role at the Royal Shakespeare Company, so I shouldn't have been able to go. And I asked the Royal Shakespeare Company, I said, "Can you let me out of rehearsals for a week?"
Mm.
And they said, "We're really sorry, but no way. There's legally, we can't. Nope. You are playing the lead role, and also we just can't for insurance purposes. What if you got hurt out there? What if we're sorry, no."
It's fair
And
enough.
amazingly, my director, lovely lady called Marianne Elliott, I told her about it. I was like, "I can't believe this opportunity, and it's got to go. Why did they take so long?" She went, "Look, I just won't call you in that week," which is pretty hard when I'm lead role in the play. She found all the other little bits I wasn't in,
Mm-hmm.
and to her credit, she rehearsed those for a week and just went, "Go, don't tell the RSC." So I went sort of on the quiet, and sure enough, broke my collarbone and had to go back into rehearsals like, but I went and got to do it. So it really was a bit of a miracle. But even then, they send you your 3 pages. I didn't tell any of my friends I was in a Bond film because I've had too many experiences of mates of mine say, "Hey, I'm in a new Spielberg. Hey, I'm in a massive this. Hey, I'm there. It's only a little part, but I'm in it." And you go and see it, and you go, "Oh, the poor bastards. They were cut out. They were entirely cut out." So I didn't tell barely anyone. So it was such a surprise when it then came out, and I went to the premiere. And Martin Campbell came straight up to me before and he went, "See, I told you you'd be in it." And he said, "And you got a close up." I went, "Whatever," as if went in. And I was, for such a small part, it was actually a really lovely little scene that felt like part of the film, And so, yeah, that's my story of getting into Casino Royale.
Okay. Well, I actually didn't know about the collarbone thing, so I guess my research is flawed. So we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
well, so you had the 3 pages. Did they tell you anything about Carter? Any backstory at all?
Not
What
really.
you were
I mean,
doing?
my memory is he didn't have a name.
Oh,
He was called something like, I'm going to get this wrong, and geeks will tell me you couldn't have been that because someone else was that, but it sort of said like 009 and a half, whatever. He was another, it just said 00 something.
sure.
So he was another 00 agent. And Daniel Craig, when we had our little rehearsal, said, "Well, I've got to call him something. I've got to call him something." And my memory is Daniel Craig came up with the name Carter.
Well, there you go.
I owe him that. Yeah.
I like that you're a 00 in this backstory, though. It makes. Why would you not be on a mission? You're.
Yeah. I think you'd have to be.
Yeah.
He was the shittest 00 ever lived.
That's why you're a half.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Did you choreograph anything with the team? Because obviously you do the quick stunt where you fall down. I'm guessing that's where the collarbone came in as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all very quick. You get there and it's literally 300 real extras, no CGI, helicopters flying around, Martin Campbell shouting through a megaphone. And we just, before I'd even spoken to anyone, he went, "Stand there," and he shot the wide in the helicopter. I was
right, yeah.
Oh, it just happened. And then we did a quick run. And then the stunt team, their whole motto on that film, the motto on set was "Get on with it." Hence Daniel Craig losing teeth and getting beaten black and blue. And the stunt team, the crowd are there. They just said, "I'll do this once. Follow me. This is what you're going to do." Push through the crowd. He found the edge of the pool. There's a school gym crash mat 16 feet down, 12 feet maybe, long way down. And he just fell onto that and he went, "So your turn." And I was like, oh, no one had ever mentioned this. The script didn't really make that clear. And also gun training. I had to do full weapon training just to rack it properly. It was great. But then they said, "Well, we'll shoot your rehearsal." So I had 3 cameras on me and I was so anxious to do a good job. I got so amped up and it was all, you didn't even know where the cameras were hidden in the bush half the time. And one down in the swimming pool, and Sebastian's there and I follow him and he does his crazy free running jump down. I have to do what I was told, which is a backflip onto this crash mat. And luckily I'm quite good at that stuff, but you can't see, can you imagine pushing through people?
Yeah.
You can't see where the edge of the pool is.
Yeah, you don't know where you're jumping.
Until the last millisecond, I couldn't see where the edge of the pool was. And I saw it perfectly, put my foot, and I launched. I went, "I'm going to do an amazing one." Backflip perfectly. I landed on top of a camera. I cleared the crash mat and landed on top of a very expensive camera. And to a man, the entire crew, everyone was checking that the camera was all right, obviously. And I was off in a corner going, "Ow, my shoulder really hurts, but I'm not going to ever." Eventually someone said, "You're all right." I went, yeah. But it was starting to really throb. And they went, "Right, we'll have to reset." And I went over and apologized to the crew. And anyway, long story short, I did the second one a bit calmer, landed perfectly on the crash mat. But as I landed, I heard a crack. And again, they went, "Great, okay, I think we got that. We'll move on to some close-ups and stuff." And I went off to a corner and I was like ashen. And a stuntman came up to me and said, "You all right?" I went, "Yeah, can you come here?" I was so desperate not to get sacked and sent home. I pulled him around a corner. I said, "I think I've hurt my shoulder." And I showed him my shoulder and it was sticking up like you wouldn't believe, like a jagged triangle. And he went, "Oh, you've broken your collarbone, mate." And he said he was just about to tell everyone. I went, "Please, please, 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 I've just done my first 2 shots. They're going to send me home. They won't send you home. We're in the Bahamas. I was so paranoid. I persuaded this guy, who I will remain nameless in case he loses his job in the future because it was naughty. He gaffer taped my shoulder down and gave me a special stuntman pill, which I don't want to know what's in it, but it was amazing.
You're still here.
And all I know is when you watch the close-up of me in my little one close-up, which was done after that, I can see in my eyes, I'm kind of off my face on painkillers. There's a little bit of trivia. When you watch it again, just have a look. I'm a little bit hazy.
That explains the woo as you're falling into the pool. You're just really enjoying yourself.
Yeah, that had already happened. We'd done that by then, but yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll go look out for the glass-eyed look on the next viewing. Keen-eyed viewers will probably find it now.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe that gaffer tape thing, but I won't dive into it because, I don't want to get anyone in trouble.
Well, there's nothing to be done for a collarbone. There's nothing to be done.
No, it's rest, isn't it?
All you can do is rest it. And actually, there is a sort of medical version of that just sort of gives it a gentle pressure down, but it hurts. And of course, the worst bit was when I flew home. I got away with it with painkillers. And then the air pressure, I nearly passed out on the way home.
So you had the close-up after that, which you got through, of course. Was there anything else, any other shots they did?
There were some other little bits and bobs. They did a lot of coverage, obviously, loads of coverage, but not too much. I was done in 2 days. I mean, that tiny setup probably took 2 days before they left the swimming pool, But I was there a week because it's just for insurance and covering, because it was a shot on film. They had to wait for the rushes and all that. So it's an amazing week. And another top trivia not everyone knows, I was supposed to be in Quantum of Solace, same character. I was asked, checked availability, told what was going to happen, what the scenes were. And there was basically a scene where Bond is going off on some part of a mission, and he says, they say, you've got to take someone with you, and he says, who? And he turns around and it's Carter, and he goes, oh no. So I was this running gag, like a John Cleese shit agent they had in Quantum of Solace. And about a month before filming, they cut 12 pages, including my bits. But it was but those scenes are in the Quantum of Solace game, and I voiced them.
I was going to bring up the game.
The game people, they got sent a script that they were told was a shooting script.
Right.
They hired me in to come and voice these scenes. We filmed them, and I went, these aren't in the film. They were like, yeah, very funny. I said, they're not in the film. What? But they left them in the game. My son's played it and seen them. I haven't. So yeah, nearly a running character in the Bonds, which would have been lovely. You never know, he might come back.
Well,
he's not dead. Contrary to rumors, he's not dead, because Quantum, I said, isn't he dead? And they said, no, he just got injured. He got poisoned by a mongoose bite, but he's not dead.
He's fine. So a deleted scene from Quantum can be found in the Quantum video game. That's official now.
Definitely.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, you said you were on set for a few days then before you went back home.
Yeah.
We've heard about the shoulder and everything. Now, one thing I want to ask is just about Daniel Craig. You said you had a little interaction with him, obviously. Putting the scene together, but that was his first Bond. A lot of pressure on the man. And we spoke to Sebastian, will be next week. And they worked together quite a lot, obviously, in the chase sequence. But what was your sort of takeaway from working with Daniel?
Well, I think I arrived at that moment where they'd maybe only been filming a few weeks. And the press, it was in the real peak of when the press were being awful to him. And there was a real sense of hunkering down in the trenches and getting on with the job. And am I allowed to swear on this?
Go for it.
Yeah, it was a real fuck you feeling to the world from Martin Campbell and Daniel together. They were very tight, and the whole crew. And it felt like being in a kind of band of brothers. And Daniel was, I mean, I'm just going to plug it because why not? I should have it here. I wrote a book that did really well, which is a memoir of just the first very tough, weird 10 years in the business for me, which was, it's a comedy book really called Work and Other Four-Letter Words. And the opening pages of the book are about my arrival in the Bahamas, because I arrived and went straight to Daniel Craig's 40th birthday party. Literally got off the plane, went to a shooting range, did my gun training, and then went to his 40th birthday, which was more Bond-like than anything in Casino Royale. This party was insane. And there were only 3 actors there. So I got out of the car, and Daniel Craig, who I'd never met before, came bowling up to the car, put a cigar in my mouth and said, "Yes, another fucking actor, brilliant," and dragged me off to the dance floor. So he was just fantastic. And I was, skinny dipping with cast and crew by the end of that night in the ocean and incredibly drunk. So he was fantastic. But on the set, he was very, very, very professional, but quite open. Our little rehearsal was literally me, him, and Martin Campbell just having a quick chat. But he was very open and inclusive and lovely. And I remember at the premiere party, I hadn't seen him for a year, obviously, and I thought he won't remember me. And they give you at those things a pack of, you've got a wristband for this, you've got a purple wristband to get in here, you've got all these things, the massive party afterwards. And the very inner circle of the party, I could see Daniel as a little rope, and he's sitting there. I just wanted to go and shake his hand and say, "Thank you, mate. Mm-hmm. You were so lovely on set." And I could see him. And a bouncer was standing there. He said, "Have you got your green wristband or whatever?" And hang on. I'm looking through my envelopes. I said, "Oh, they haven't got a green one in here. I've got all the others. I mean," he went, "You can't come in." And I went, "Oh, I just wanted to say thank you to Daniel. I'm in a scene with Daniel, and I just wanted to shake his hand. Then I'll go. You can watch me if you want. I'll leave." "No, mate, you're not fucking going to talk to her." And he caught my eye, and I waved, and he sort of recognized me. He went, "Oh, yeah, hi." I went, "He's not letting me in." I was trying to over the noise signal. And Daniel Craig came and spoke to this bouncer and went, "Mate, he's in the film. Let him in." And the bouncer went, "No, mate, I've got my orders." And he turned Daniel Craig down. And I went, "Listen, that's lovely of you. Don't worry." So my experience with Daniel Craig is just a total fucking diamond.
I also tip my hat to the bouncer guy, because at least he stuck up to both of you. The James Bond's telling you off, and you're like, "No, mate, sorry."
"Sorry, mate, I've got my orders. Green wristband only," or whatever it was.
Well, you mentioned Martin Campbell as well. This is his second Bond film. He'd done a fantastic GoldenEye before that. Yeah. Any sort of experience, any memories of working with him? Any thoughts on that?
Oh, just like it was working with Peckinpah or someone. I mean, well, a nicer version, but he was it was like an old school movie director. He used a megaphone to shout to the cast and crew, and he amped everyone up, and I know another memory, a little one, again, it's in the book. I'll keep plugging my book, but it was really interesting, the whole there's not much plot from me, but there's a bit. The point is that Sebastian Foucan sees me, I give away that I've got an earpiece, right? Mm-hmm. That's the whole point. Get your finger out your ear. When I did my mids and close-ups, Martin came up to me. He's so busy. He went, "Yeah, the finger in the ear thing. I'm starting to think. I think it's a bit too obvious. I think it's a bit theatrical. He'd heard I was doing a play. He was like, "Oh, this is some theatre actor being too big." Right. So he went, "Let's cut the finger in the ear. Let's cut the finger in the ear." And I was so nervous. It's my first big movie, but I went, as he was just about to walk away, I was like, "That's the whole point of the fucking scene.
That's the thing.
He's so busy, he's forgotten the whole point of the scene. Dare I say this to him?" And I went, "Mr. Campbell." He came back and went, "Yes." I went, I didn't know what to say. I went, I'm so sorry, but isn't that the point? Isn't it that he gets caught with his hand in the till, as it were?"
Yeah.
And that was the phrase I used. And Martin Campbell went, all right, leave it in for now. So weirdly, and who knows what would have been left in the scene in the film if they'd have got there and go, "Oh shit, it doesn't," that is the point. But I think in a day like that, we've got helicopters, 300 extras, this, that, and it can be, and I've directed my own tiny films now, you can just lose sight of things sometimes. Mm-hmm. So there was that moment, but he was great. He listened to me and went, okay, just don't do it too big. I don't know what I was doing. What was I doing? I'm sure I was doing it exactly the same. Yeah. And I seem to remember as well that the earpiece worked. It was real. It was an actual communication device, and I could hear Daniel 300 yards away doing his line, which is pretty awesome.
I mean, they're gargantuan productions, the Bond films. Yeah. There's no wonder he gets lost in it, but also that's crazy that it works. But also that makes sense. They have the money.
Yeah, I think they were real. That's my memory, is it was a real little earpiece that we could talk to each other with.
Well, you spoke about the premiere, seeing Daniel.
Yeah.
Obviously, you see the film.
Yeah.
You see yourself in the close-up. You got it all. What did you think of the finished film?
Oh, well, the film, even on that night, I was able to just watch it and just go, "This is my favorite Bond film ever. This is just," well, at that point, just like, this is an amazing film. It's like Bourne Ultimatum, with all the James Bond class. I just still think it's up there with the best 1 or 2 Bond films ever myself. It really is phenomenal. And and I met Ava on Casino Royale. We chatted on makeup trucks and stuff and in the hotel. And then I worked with Ava Green again on Penny Dreadful.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we had a very intimate scene in Penny Dreadful. Dear Lord. So it was brilliant. She was fantastic. I remember thinking she was just brilliant. The whole thing is it's so classy, I think. Yeah.
Has it
one of the best Bond songs ever?
Absolutely.
I love the song. Yeah. Yeah.
It's I mean, Chris Cornell, I'm a big fan anyway, but having him and David Arnold working together is
brilliant.
That's the dream. I asked this question to Sebastian and he had a very interesting answer. I'm going to ask it to you too, sir.
Yeah.
Did you keep a memento from the shoot?
I'm a fool. No. And I came home with a few. I had the call sheets. I had I did have the trousers that I wore in the thing. Can you believe, instead of keeping a hold of them and shrining them, I wore them non-stop for about 10 years. Non-stop. They were my go-to combat trousers until they fell apart. And then I threw them in a bin. But I have a million photographs of me wearing those because I loved them. They were absolutely fantastic trousers.
I was genuinely hoping you'd say the earpiece.
Oh, that would be awesome. But no,
but if it worked, I get why they took it back.
They took that straight off me. No, that would have been amazing. No, nothing. I can't think of anything left. No.
Okay. I mean, that's fair enough. And a lot of actors who get sort of told off for it. So I get why you didn't think to do it. That's absolutely fine. I did have a sort of legacy question about the film because obviously it's probably the biggest Bond film ever been made in terms of popularity. It's my favorite personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you surprised by that?
That's a really good question. I don't know if that's exactly how I'd describe it. Surprised. It's a weird thing because in a normal day where I go to the supermarket or walk the dogs and I don't think about it very often. Then someone like you will get in touch and I'll go, and you kind of, I'm astounded at my good fortune of having been part of it. And I honestly, no one believes me when I say this, it can come on the television and I can sort of forget I'm in it because it's such a surreal idea that I should be in a film like that. And then I go, and I thought, am I in this? Oh, yeah. So I feel I'm not religious or anything, but it is the right word. I feel blessed. It was just a blessing in my life. Strange things I like saying at conventions as well that people don't realize, I didn't get paid very well. Which is how Barbara Broccoli and everyone, they know how to run a business. Who's going to say no to a Bond film? But here's what I will say for them. So they paid us kind of standard equity jobbing actor rates, right? Perfectly all right for a week's work, but it's not going to change your life in any way, shape, even for a month. But I did get residuals, my tiny fraction of a tiny fraction of a tiny fraction of these were the days of DVD. If you go in any charity shop in England, you will find 3 copies of Casino Royale on DVD. It was a phenomenal DVD seller. So I was like, I had this about a year after it came out. I had a day where I fell over with like a few £1,000s more than I got paid for doing it for nothing. So, and every year still maybe 100 quid will come in or 200 quid, it still is the gift that keeps giving. And thank God.
You mentioned the Quantum of Solace video game. Now, one thing that jumped out to me is your character is given a first name.
Yes.
What did you think of Brian?
Oh, I don't think I knew that. I've never heard that before. Is he called Brian Carter?
Brian Carter.
Oh my God. That's amazing. I had no idea.
It's
terrible. That's terrible, but absolutely perfect.
It's spot on, isn't it? Like the guy has his finger in his ear.
It's Brian. Brian, get your finger out your Brian. Oh, it's very good. I had no idea. That is it. I've just learned that today.
There you go. I'm glad we could share that moment.
Carter. Do you know what? I'm going to bother to change my credits on Spotlight to playing Brian Carter. Casino Royale.
Appearing on SpyHards podcast can do that to people. That you can definitely, we've grown from
that.
This.
Is brilliant. That is brilliant.
But you speaking of the finger in the ear, and you mentioned the legacy of the film.
Yeah.
I was curious because it's kind of a call out moment. It's become a bit of a meme in itself.
Yeah.
Do you ever get that shouted out to you?
Do you think there's a GIF?
Oh, there absolutely is.
Oh, I've never seen that. You'll have to send it to me.
I'll send it to you. That's all over the place.
I do occasionally get that shouted at me in supermarkets still. Or you get your finger out your ear. It's fantastic. I don't mind at all. And I just do it for them. I put my finger in my own ear for them. And yeah, that's quite a thing, isn't it? And isn't in the last Daniel Craig film, there's a nod to it, isn't there? There's a reference when she's going around, she's got an earpiece and she's going around that bar. There's a deliberate reference to it. Someone told me, I was so honored.
There's actually two.
Oh,
there's that one, which you're spot on with. There's also one in Skyfall, with Moneypenny. Well, you don't know her as Moneypenny at that point, but she is Moneypenny. She also has her finger in it and gets told off for it. So it's why did they not bring old Brian back? I want to see more Brian.
I mean, it so nearly happened with Quantum. That would have been amazing. You see, I might have listened. Controversial. This. A lot of people don't think I quite enjoyed Quantum, but it's not the greatest. But who knows? Old Brian could have elevated Quantum right up there. It needed a sense of humor. I think they lost a bit by not having that funny little scene.
It was. I mean, there was a lot of problems with behind the scenes with Quantum with the writer strike and stuff. It's hard to get around. But okay, well, we've got a little bit of time, so I want to bounce off Bond because there's more to you than James Bond. And one thing that blew me away a little bit. My other half's a big fan of the RSC, and we've been to the Globe many times. I was like taken back by your stage credits. Actually, I didn't know you'd done so much work on stage. And I was going to go far. If we had more time, I'd go through some of your roles. But just a question, really, I'd like to ask is: do you have like a preference for screen or stage? Where do you like to spend your time?
No, I mean, well, the answer I've developed. I'm not saying, hey, that's a boring question, but occasionally you get asked that question, and I eventually developed an answer which I thought, hey, this is a good answer. I used to say to people, you know what? It's a bit like asking if I prefer breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And the answer is I just like eating. Right.
I love that.
That's kind of my answer to that. Is still vaguely true. But here's the weird thing. I have probably done 80 big fat theatre productions in my time. I've now done about 25 feature films and like 50 TV things and 500 radio plays and blah, blah, blah. I now actually have to say I prefer being on a film set. And I never thought I'd say that because theatre was always my thing. I needed the adrenaline. I needed the fear that I liked facing my fear. I liked the fight or flight thing. And actually now I'm getting a real kick out of filming more than I ever have. And I think I'm really getting the hang of it. And so I'm doing a real fucking full-on theatre job now for the first time in a little while, and I'm exhausted.
Well, you're taking me over beautifully to my next question, which is going to be sort of, what is it you're currently working on? So you're back in theatre this time.
I just played the lead in a war film, funnily enough, doing a lot of guns and stunts just before, which it will be out next year, called Great. I thought it was a terrible title, and then I went, no, it's a really brilliant title. It's called Warblade. I mean, it won't change the world. It's a real film, but low budget real film, less than £1 million type film. But, it's the first time in a long time I've been number one on the call sheet, and it was a great fun. And then I went straight from that, which was nearly 4 weeks of night shoots, into rehearsing a play called Noises Off, which is a famous comedy, which is the most crazy comedy ever written, and we've opened now. It's had great reviews last week, and I was really chuffed to get very good reviews, but it's the most physical thing I've ever done. I sweat so much in this show. I run up and down stairs, through doors, falling downstairs. It's like being Lee Evans for the night. And I get through 4 shirts per show.
That's a lot of sweat. Where is that playing at the moment?
Well, it was just on Bath Theatre Royal. We're at Richmond Theatre for the next 2 weeks, then Brighton, then Cambridge, and then it's off for a chunk, and then I think it's in the West End in the spring.
I'll try and catch it in the West End then. I could get to Richmond, but the West End's closer to me. Okay. Yeah. I'll see where I can find you. That'd be great.
Well, if not, come in the next 2 weeks. Richmond's lovely, It's got a great cast.
Who else is? That was actually.
Well, it's kind of funny. There's all sorts of funny shaped characters in it, but we've got like old names like Felicity Kendall, Matthew Kelly, Tracy Ann Oberman, who's Friday Night Dinner and everything, and Jonathan Coy. It's a really good cast, and but it's knackering. My God,
the Lee Evans performance style is definitely going to get you sweating. Two final questions before we let you go. Then, first question.
Yeah.
Is there something in your filmography or your staged performances that have been recorded you would point someone to go back and check out? They've seen you in Casino Royale, but you want them to see something else of your sort of back catalogue.
That's really good. Thank you for asking, because that's lovely, because you can actually... Well, the tricky thing with theatre is that most of it's very ephemeral. Once it's done, it evaporates, and all you got left is a poster. But there are a couple that I've done that were filmed well. The Macbeth at the Globe was released in cinemas worldwide, and then can be seen on Globe Player or on DVD. And that is it's not about, hey, watch me play Macbeth. It's a beautiful production that even people who hate Shakespeare go, oh, I really fucking enjoyed that. And it's got a lovely cast. There's a play I did at the RSC called The Rover, which was filmed beautifully, 6 cameras, but they never released it. They've just stuck it in the Victoria and Albert Museum. You can phone up and watch it with headphones on a big screen. And it's that play is just the most entertaining thing that's ever existed. And then film-wise, there was I played a real serial killer movie, a true story called, his name was Stephen Morin. And there was a movie called The Chameleon, which won like 9 film festivals. And I played this. He has split personality. It was the biggest gig of my life. And it won loads of film festivals and then never got a full release. And it was on Netflix for about a year. I think it's still on Amazon to be rented, but I don't know. But there's a film called The Chameleon that I am beyond proud of. And then I've started, I just directed my first posh short film. And I'd love people to watch that, which is called Care. And all I've stuck it now. It's done the festival thing. It's on YouTube. You just put in CARE brackets 4K. Because if you just put in Care, you get all sorts of weird stuff. Sure. So Care 4K. And I'd love people to watch that. I'm not in it, but I wrote it and I directed it. And it's got lovely actors like Michael Maloney in it. And it's just 20 minutes. It's really lovely. So that's where I'd send people. To read the book.
Well, I was going to mention the book. We'll put links to the
that'd be amazing.
Everything in the show notes below, so everyone can go check those out immediately after listening to this. If we had more time, I would talk about your book. I wrote some notes about it, but work and other 4-letter words. I've got a link to that in the show notes below as well. People will find out about that. But before we let you go, so the final question, I've prepped you for this, so hopefully we get a good answer. We're a spy movie podcast. We talk about spy movies every week. What is your favorite spy movie?
It's fairly recent. It's called The Courier.
Yes, Benedict Cumberbatch.
I thought it was just fantastic.
It's
the whole film. I know the director. I've worked for the director in theatre, Dominic Cook.
We had him on the show.
Oh, we'll love him. Love Dominic. Just a dear pal. But I couldn't believe because he's a great theatre director. He used to run the Royal Court, and then I think this is his second film. But it just, the whole movie danced. It just danced the camera the whole way through, and it was I've seen it twice, once at the cinema and once at home, and I just think it's fantastic. Really, really brilliant.
It's one of those ones that flew under the radar for a lot of people, I think, and I often urge people, if you like a grittier spy story, it's one to go and watch. It's a harrowing performance from Benedict Cumberbatch towards the end as well. That's tough to watch. Absolutely worth it. Well, perfect question and perfect answer. I don't think we've ever had the Courier before, so thank you for bringing that to the show, Joseph. But all that's left to do is to thank Brian Carter himself.
Yes!
Mr. Joseph Millson. Thank you for coming on the show, talking about Casino Royale.
Such a pleasure, Scott.
60 years of Bond, and thank you for being part of it.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you all.
And we'll see you around. Thank you, Joseph.
Cheers.